I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife, Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Paul.
I honestly believe that this person, not even a person, this beast deserved the ultimate punishment of death.
He's not. Armand Mivas is a cannibal. In March 2001, he killed a man and ate him, along with a glass of fine.
This is Larry Nassar, a former USA Gymnastics and Michigan State University doctor who has pleaded guilty to sexually assaulting young girls. The courtroom was stunned and mocked when Judge Rosemarie Aquilina read Larry Nassar's prepared remarks. Nassar defended his activities in the state trials, stating that what he performed was medicinal, not sexual. He voiced dissatisfaction with his 60-year federal sentence for possessing child pornography, claiming that it was unjust given the circumstances. Judge Aquilina delivered a scathing reading of Nassar's remarks, revealing her disdain for him. She mocked his claim that he was duped by the Attorney General, eliciting raucous laughter from the crowd.
I wanted to plead no contest, but the AG refused that. I was so manipulated by the AG and now Aquilina, and all I wanted was to minimize stress to everyone, like I wrote earlier.
As the court dug more into Nassar's remarks, he stated that his medical treatments with Olympic and national gymnasts were discussed and declared medical in the federal case. He accused the media and the FBI of wanting publicity and monetary gain. He said the following in his statement, which the court read out to him.
I was a good doctor because my treatments worked, and those patients that are now speaking out were the same ones that praised and came back over and over and referred family and friends to see me. The media convinced them that everything I did was wrong and bad. They feel I broke their trust. My medical treatments with the Olympic/national team gymnastics were discussed as part of the plea. The FBI investigated them in 2015 and found nothing substantial because it was medical. Now they are seeking the media attention and financial reward.
The court asked Nassar whether he wanted to withdraw his plea after discarding his statement.
Would you like to withdraw your plea?
No, Your Honor.
Because you are guilty, aren't you? Are you guilty, sir?
I said my plea, exactly.
Before reading his letter, Nassar addressed his victims, expressing his heartfelt regret and acknowledging the huge emotional impact their remarks had on him.
These past several days have had a significant emotional effect on myself and has shaken me to my core. I also recognize that what I am feeling pales in comparison to the pain, trauma, and emotional destruction that all of you have me. There are no words that can describe the depth and breadth of how sorry I am for what has occurred.
Aquilina stated her hope that his guilt was sincere in reaction to his apologies. The courtroom was fraught with emotions as the judge handed down a harsh punishment, indicating her lack of sympathy for Nassar. Nassar remained remorseless throughout the judge's lengthy sentence, with no expression on his face. Nonetheless, Judge Rosemarie Aquilina sentenced Larry Nassar to 40 to 175 years in prison, ensuring that he will spend the rest of his life in jail. This is Alex Murdo, the central figure in a riveting courtroom drama unfolding at the Carrollton County Courthouse. He faces charges for the tragic deaths of his wife, Maggie Murdo, and their son, Paul Murdo. Despite his assertions of innocence, he stands accused of 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of using a weapon during violent crimes. The Murdaugh family saga has taken numerous shocking turns, leading to startling arrests and a trial that has captured the nation's attention. At the center of it all is Alex Murdo, a 54-year-old lawyer from a prominent legal lineage. He has been found guilty of murdering his own family members, allegedly attempting to conceal his questionable financial dealings and manipulative lifestyle. The courtroom is packed with onlookers, eager to witness the outcome of this notorious case.
But it is overwhelming, and it shows this man to be a cunning manipulator, a man who placed himself above all others, including his family. A man who violated the trust of so many, including his friends, his family, his partners, his profession, but most of all, Maggie and
Defying the prosecutor's accusations and facing the weight of 2 murder charges, Murdo showed unwavering resolve as he stepped onto the witness stand, sticking to his version of events and vehemently asserting his innocence. In a dramatic turn of events, he directly addressed the court during the proceedings.
Listen, I would never hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never hurt my son Papa.
During the sentencing of Alex Murdo for the murders of his wife and son, Judge Clifton Newman did not hold back in criticizing him for his lack of remorse throughout the trial. The judge also highlighted the inconsistency in punishments for lesser offenses and advocated for leniency.
I sentence you to the State Department of Corrections on each of the murder indictments. In the murder of your wife, Maggie Murdo, I sentence you for the term of the rest of your natural life. For the murder of Paul Murdo, whom you probably loved so much.
As Alex Murdo received his sentencing for the murders, he displayed an emotionless and remorseless demeanor, with a blank expression on his face. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms for the heinous crimes. This is Gregory McMichael, a 68-year-old man who, along with his son Travis McMichael, has been found guilty in the pursuit and killing of Ahmaud Arbery. They faced a range of charges, including felony murder and hate crimes. As the verdict was read in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial, Gregory McMichael appeared stunned by the guilty verdict.
That the most violent crime in Satilla Shores was the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. So, sentencing does not generally provide closure. I think Ms. Wanda Cooper-Jones also talked about closure, but I don't find that it really does, and I think that's an unfortunate thing. Because in this case, I think many people are seeking closure. The mother, the father, the community.
As the reality of the guilty verdict sank in, McMichael's expression went from disbelief to a mixture of disappointment and sadness. It was clear that he had anticipated a different outcome, strongly believing that he and his son were justified in their actions. McMichael's lawyers expressed their disappointment with the verdict and stated their intention to appeal the decision. They emphasized that McMichael genuinely believed he was doing the right thing, indicating that he still held on to the notion that their pursuit of Arbery was justified.
Michael, the court sentences you as follows. Count 1, malice murder, defendant was found not guilty. Count 2, felony murder, life without the possibility of parole.
At the sentencing, Gregory McMichael appeared detached and unaffected, showing no emotions on his face. Despite their dissatisfaction with the verdict, McMichael's lawyers remained committed to following the legal process. While they respected the jury's decision, they were actively looking into options for seeking a new trial for Gregory McMichael. The guilty verdict was a major turning point in his life, as it meant he would be spending the rest of his life in prison, serving a life sentence. This is Joseph James D'Angelo, and we're here at the Gordon D. Shaber Sacramento County Courthouse in California for his trial. He gained notoriety as the Golden State Killer due to his series of violent crimes. D'Angelo, a former police officer who served from 1973 to 1979, committed a string of crimes, including 13 murders, numerous rapes, and burglaries. He was arrested in 2018 and has been facing charges for his heinous acts. As the victim impact statements were delivered, the courtroom was filled with deep sadness and grief. Elizabeth Hupp, the daughter of Claude Snelling, who was murdered by D'Angelo in 1975, shared her harrowing experience. She spoke about her father's brave actions and the lasting fear that gripped her family.
My father caught him twice staring in my bedroom window when he came home from teaching night school and tried to chase him down but was unable to catch him. He was wearing a ski mask and pointing a gun at me, saying that he was taking me with him and that if I made any noise, he would kill me. D'Angelo fired 2 shots, hitting my dad. He then turned the gun on me as I was down on the ground. My only thought was, this is it. And put my head down, expecting him to kill me.
When it was time for D'Angelo to speak, he rose from his wheelchair and took off his face covering. He addressed the court, expressing his remorse to all the family members who had shared their statements. D'Angelo acknowledged that he had listened to each victim's statement and expressed his sorrow for the pain he had caused.
Listened all your statements, each one of them, and I'm really sorry for everyone I've hurt. Thank you, Your Honor.
D'Angelo's words cast a somber atmosphere in the courtroom, touching the emotions of some present. Although his apology appeared sincere to some, others believed he deserved the ultimate punishment of death.
I honestly believe that this person, not even a person, this beast, deserved the ultimate punishment of death.
In exchange for D'Angelo's guilty pleas, the death penalty had been ruled out. The district attorney acknowledged that while the victims and their families might not see justice served in the form of death, they could find solace in knowing that there are now 13 angels watching over them.
But for the victims whose voices have been stolen, and the family members who sadly ran out of time and could not make it here today, I want you to know that there are 13 angels watching this, and they're with us right now.
Even though the death penalty was not on the table, the family found comfort in knowing that D'Angelo would be spending the rest of his life behind bars, paying for the terrible crimes he committed.
What sickens and angers me the most is that D'Angelo was able to live a normal life with his family for all those years. While my family and I could not be with my dad. I am so thankful that he will at least spend the rest of his miserable life in prison. Thank you.
The friends and relatives of the victims shared their heart-wrenching stories, talking about the immense void and deep sorrow they had to endure. They wished for D'Angelo to spend the rest of his life in prison, facing the consequences of the pain he inflicted. But during the sentencing, D'Angelo appeared unbothered and unremorseful, leaving them disheartened by his demeanor.
Court hereby sentences the defendant to an additional sentence of life without the possibility of parole.
The family's wish was granted as Joseph James D'Angelo received a life sentence without the chance of parole. This is Mark Latunsky, a 50-year-old Michigan resident who stands accused of the gruesome killing of Kevin Bacon. He has pleaded guilty to charges of murder and mutilation of a corpse. The chilling details of Bacon's murder, from the stabbing to the disturbing act of cannibalism, have left everyone in the courtroom shaken. The shocking discovery of Bacon's naked body, hanging from the ceiling days after his disappearance, sent waves of horror through the entire courtroom. Latunsky's heinous acts, such as throat-slitting and the unthinkable act of consuming body parts, have left everyone gasping in disbelief at the depth of depravity involved in the crime. The pain and grief of Bacon's family are palpable, filling the room with a sense of immense loss and sorrow.
You as parents are the first to go be with Jesus. But because of someone who decided to take our son's life, that isn't the case for us. Only 25 years old and had a great career as a hairstylist and hadn't been able to graduate from U of M in psychology, even though they were kind enough to honor him his degree. Such a short life for our son who had a lot to do in this world still.
Not only was the statement incredibly sad, but then Jenny Bacon, Kevin's sister, stepped up to the podium and delivered her own heartfelt speech.
October 24, 2019, it was the last time I saw my brother Kevin alive. I had to wait 3 long days to learn of Kevin's murder, unaware to me that he was killed on Christmas Eve night. Kevin meant the world to me, and I will never have another brother like him. The day I learned of Kevin's death, a part of me died with him because he was my first best friend, brother, and protector. Kevin was my protector from cruel people who didn't understand me like he did, because of a disability that I was born with.
Following the emotional impact statements, Latunsky remained motionless with a sense of regret while his defense attorney addressed the court. Even during the sentencing, the judge emphasized the premeditated nature of the crime, stating that Latunsky had intentionally planned Bacon's death. As a result, he was sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. This is William Bryan, a 54-year-old man currently on trial for his involvement in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. He's not alone in this case, as he faces charges alongside the father and son duo, Gregory McMichael and Travis McMichael. The allegations against Bryan are serious, including charges of murder, hate crimes, and racism. During the courtroom proceedings, shocking revelations came to light about Bryan's behavior. The audience was stunned to hear about his racial slurs and derogatory comments. The prosecutor's opening arguments painted a disturbing picture of Bryan, suggesting that he held deep-rooted racial prejudice. One incident that stood out was when Bryan used racial slurs to describe his daughter's black boyfriend just days before Ahmaud Arbery's murder. This only strengthened the prosecution's case, indicating that the crime might have been racially motivated. As the trial unfolded, it became evident that Brian's actions were part of a broader pattern of racism. The prosecutor presented evidence of racist language used not only by Brian, but also by the other two defendants. Even Brian's immediate statements to the police after Arbery's death revealed his prejudiced assumptions, as he presumed Arbery to be a criminal based solely on instinct.
That we just read, Mr. Bryan is talking about backing up and going at the victim and saying his belief that the victim was trying to get into his truck, right?
The prosecutor made a powerful statement in the courtroom, saying that if Ahmaud Arbery had been white, he would have been safe and unharmed. This statement emphasized how the situation drastically changed from a peaceful jog to a life-or-death struggle, all because of the color of his skin. The trial brought to light the disturbing racist remarks made by the defendant. The prosecution presented evidence of messages, social media posts, and texts filled with racial slurs, revealing a troubling pattern of dehumanization. It became evident that racial bias and hatred played a significant role in the case. As the trial continued, the jury had to grapple with the truth behind the motivations for Arbery's tragic death. The evidence exposed the extent of racial prejudice displayed by the defendants, leaving the jurors with the crucial task of uncovering the real reasons behind this heartbreaking incident.
As far as the remorse, I think Roddy Bryan stands in very different shoes. It is obvious from the beginning that he questioned the tragedy that had occurred at the scene. It was on, I believe, I can't remember whose body cam, but the body cam, in fact, questioning whether or not what had occurred, and then took steps early on in this process, I think, that demonstrated that he had grave concerns. So the court, recognizing that Mr. Bryan's position is different, again, Mr. Bryan was found not guilty on count 1 and count 2. The court sentences Mr. Bryan to life with the possibility of parole on count 3.
William Bryan, along with the other two culprits, the McMichaels, may face a lifetime behind bars. As the judge announced his sentence, Bryan remained still and expressionless. The verdict was life imprisonment with the chance of parole after 30 years. This is Vonda Starr Smith from Afton, Tennessee, who received her sentencing for being involved in the first-degree murder of a pregnant woman and the second-degree murder of her unborn child. During the trial, witnesses came forward to speak about Vonda's character, painting her as a good person. One of her former co-workers, Jessica Price, expressed her sadness about the situation, stating that Vonda would be missed. Even though people spoke highly of Vonda, the judge remained resolute in his decision, highlighting the extreme cruelty of the crime and the irreparable pain endured by the victim's family.
Severe lacerations to her skull and fracture in the top of her skull. She trusted being with you as opposed to being with a stranger, and bad things happened. This murder happened after that.
In the courtroom, Vonda's defense attorney, Gene Scott, made a plea for a less severe sentence, emphasizing her limited criminal history and stable job. Despite this, the judge held his ground, pointing out the vulnerability of the victim, who was not only a pregnant woman, but also carrying an unborn child. As the trial concluded, Tammy Morrison, Jesse's grieving mother, found the courage to speak to the court, tears streaming down her face. She shared the heart-wrenching impact of losing her daughter and grandchild, acknowledging that no matter the punishment, it could never bring them back.
Not enough justice on this earth that can bring my daughter back or my grandchild. My biggest consolation is she will never see her grandchild again.
Witnesses saw Vonda Starr Smith shed tears while they testified, but she appeared emotionless when the judge read out the sentence. The courtroom grew quiet as Judge Duggar declared a life sentence for first-degree murder and the maximum penalty of 25 years for the second-degree murder charge. This is John Acklin, a 60-year-old man appearing in Columbia County Court to face a jury for the sexual assault of 2 children. The gravity of his crimes shocked everyone present in the courthouse. It was difficult to grasp the full extent of his despicable acts. The survivors, who bravely stood up to confront their abuser, displayed a mix of emotions. A sense of relief that justice had been served, but still haunted by the trauma they had endured.
Really happy that today I'm able to seek justice for what I've been through, because he should never be let out to harm any other children. And I hope that he's sentenced to the rest of his life in prison.
Each count given out by the prosecution seemed like a punch to the heart of those present. The weight of the evidence against Ackland was clear, leaving the jury with little doubt. The survivors listened closely, their faces etched with sorrow, seeking consolation in the fact that their voices were heard and believed. Ackland, on the other hand, showed no signs of emotion. He kept a stony expression, as though distant from the seriousness of his acts, unwilling to recognize the permanent harm he had inflicted. The defense counsel, John Hillman, sought to reduce the sentence by pleading for leniency. Unfortunately, his appeals were ignored. Despite the gravity of the offenses committed, the court refused to show clemency. In the end, John Ackland, convicted by the Columbia County Court of sexually abusing 2 children, will spend the rest of his life in jail, and throughout his sentence, he sat remorselessly, head down, and stared into space. He earned an astounding 335-year state jail term. This is George Gould Thomas, a 56-year-old gang leader of the 28S gang, facing an extensive list of charges, including 7 counts of murder, 10 counts of illegal possession of ammunition, 11 counts of illegal possession of firearms, 10 counts of inciting crimes, 3 counts each of conspiracy to commit a crime, attempted murder, belonging to a criminal gang, and thefts, and finally, 1 count of housebreaking with intent to commit robbery. George Gould Thomas and 6 others received life imprisonment, while 10 additional individuals were sentenced to terms ranging from 12 to 25 years. The Justice Department emphasized their determination to crack down on gangsterism and implement strict security measures in correctional facilities. During his testimony, Thomas vehemently denied being a lethal gang boss and claimed to no longer be an active member of the 28S gang. He argued that while in jail, he lacked the authority to order any murders and asserted that he was not a threat to society.
I'm gonna be brutally honest. I'm not saying I regret it but what I know for a fact, if I could have changed some things, I wouldn't be here where I'm now.
Thomas went so far as to claim that he received commendations for his good behavior while in prison, but the judge didn't find his testimony convincing and dismissed his claims. Throughout the trial, Thomas kept up a cheerful demeanor and even laughed during his sentencing. However, Judge Chantal Fortuin wasn't swayed by his demeanor and found Thomas guilty of a multitude of charges, including murder, racketeering, belonging to a criminal gang, conspiracy, incitement, attempted murder, housebreaking, theft, and illegal possession of firearms and ammunition. His conviction was for the murders of Angelo Clayson, Glenston Martin, Yusri Abrahams, Haywin Stridham, Cecil Barnes, Gresham Buison, and Nadine Davids. For these heinous crimes, he received 7 life sentences for the 7 counts of murder and an additional 175 years for the remaining 46 counts.
He's not. Armand Mivas is a cannibal. In March 2001, he killed a man and ate him, along with a glass of fine...
This is the notorious Armand Mivas and his trial for cannibalism, a case that sent shockwaves throughout the nation. Mivas faced trial in a German criminal court, accused of the murder and cannibalism of Bernd Jürgen Brandes. The courtroom was filled with stunned silence as the judge delivered the verdict. Armand Mivas, the German cannibal killer, received a life sentence, overturning his previous 8-year term. The trial pushed Germany's legal system to its limits, grappling with the complex question of the boundaries of murder. Mivas's defense team fought for a more lenient sentence, arguing for killing upon request, which carried a maximum penalty of 5 years. They based their argument on the fact that Brandes had given consent to his own killing and consumption. During the trial, chilling details emerged about the incident. Brandes had willingly responded to Mivas's online post, offering himself as a victim. The horrifying encounter took place at Mivas's home, where he proceeded to sever Brandes's penis and share it as their final meal. The courtroom was filled with shock and revulsion as these disturbing accounts were recounted. As the trial unfolded, the courtroom fell into an eerie silence when excerpts from the chilling videotape documenting the gruesome event were played. The graphic nature of the evidence left many visibly shaken, and the sheer magnitude of Mivas's actions filled the room with horror and disbelief. Psychiatrists took the stand and testified that, despite his long-standing fascination with cannibalism since his youth, Maywes was deemed psychologically sound. This revelation sent shivers down the spines of those present, trying to grasp the mindset of a man capable of such unspeakable acts. On the other side, prosecutors argued that Maywes should have been aware of Brandis's disturbed mental state and questioned his motives for wanting to be killed more thoroughly. Finally, the moment came when the judge delivered the sentence. Throughout the entire process, Maywes remained calm and composed. He was ultimately sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole.